So, second language acquisition. And we know that we know a language that is our first language. And many of you, we call it mother language, is it? And in that course, or in this course, first language is determined as L1 and second language is determined as L2. Okay. SLA, that means the second language acquisition, covers many things, many issues relating to the second language acquisition. And researchers from the very beginning, they have investigated the issue. That is, what is second language and what is second language acquisition? And after getting the definition of the second language, another question comes. That is, in which way second language can be learned? These issues will be discussed elaborately in this course. Okay. And first thing first, what is second language acquisition? You see some terms. In order to understand the initial terms of this relating to this course, today we will be discussing briefly about the topic that you see on the slides. That is, what is second language phenomena, second language acquisition, and first language acquisition, morphology and syntax, and what is the role that is the first language play in order to learn second language, or second language. And there are some hypotheses, so we will try to discuss that as well. So, second language, what it is? It is, we know our mother language, that is called first language or mother language. Apart from this language, apart from this first language, everybody nowadays tries to learn another language. And that language is called second language. There is a difference between second language or international language. Second language we choose according to our necessities. Suppose he or she wants to study in Germany. So in that case, he or she wants to learn German language. So for him or her, German is their second language. Anybody of you might be interested to learn the Spanish language. For him or her, that would be the second language. Okay. So the second language is, apart from the mother language or the first language, anybody tries to learn another language for the reasons various, for the diversified reasons. Always it will be on the basis of your education or business, not like that. You can learn a second language for many reasons that you know. Naturally, in case of Bangladesh, we think that second language means English language. That exactly not. It may vary to person to person. That is the second language. And in which way? Our concern is the second language acquisition. If we come to the term, that is acquisition. Acquisition means to acquire. Acquisition always covers the field of first language. That means we learn naturally from our parents, from our neighbor, from the initial stage of a child. A child learns a language naturally. And another thing is that unconsciously, Because a child doesn't know grammar, a child doesn't know vocabulary, a child doesn't know other structure of a language. So acquisition will be unconscious or subconscious language learning by an infant from their parents, neighbors, and dear and ones, naturally, unconscious. That is acquisition. Learning is very conscious. That means any learning will be the conscious learning. After 5, 10, or 8 years, when we go to school, we learn a language. That means that is the conscious ways of language learning. And language learning and language acquisition. What is the difference? Difference is that acquisition is unconscious and a natural process. Learning is a conscious and tutored. Tutored, that means in the class you learn. Always it will be tutored, not like that. Suppose the person who knows 3 languages, he or she might not be going to a university, college, or school. But if he knows other languages, that is the natural ways of learning a second language. Whatever may be, it may be tutored. That means second language may be studied in class or outside, but the way that we learn second language consciously. Okay. That is the second language. And this second language learning, how you will be learn second language? I said that tutored and natural way. So if you visit other countries, then you will have the exposure of the second language. But it is not the class. So it is the ways you can get input of second language naturally. Okay. And the learning and the tutored way, that means you want to learn second language and you have studied in schools, college, and universities. Apart from these issues, that means classroom or natural setting, there are some others way you might get input of second language. That would be discussed elaborately when we will be discussing about input and interaction regarding this course. Okay, so the second language, what is the definition exactly? The second language acquisition. Here, the bolded word, you can say that the second language acquisition or the sequential language acquisition is a learning a second language after first language is already established. That means after first language you will be learning a second language. And most probably you have got
সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ যেটা হয়, সাইন ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ যখন কেউ ফার্স্ট ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের পরে অ্যাকুয়ার করে, ওটাও কি সেকেন্ড ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ হিসেবে গণ্য হয়?
Sign language is a different one. Yeah, sign language, that means without delivering any letters, you will see some sign. Okay, that means drive slow. But when you will be driving a car, you will see a sign. The sign that means there is a speed breaker ahead of you. That is the sign language. There will be no letters. Okay. So in order to suppose you don't know Chinese language, if you visit China, how you will determine the speed breaker, signal light, and others. So signal light and the speed breaker will be called the sign language. There will be no letters. Yes, second language. Sign language just for them who don't know the letters of the specific language, and for this in order to communicate with the person, some signs will be. That means many restroom you will see for male and female, but male and female these are not written over there. Just you will see the sign, whether it is for male or whether it is for female. That is the sign, not the language. Okay. So this Chomsky, you have heard the name of this person because you have to hear this name several times whenever you will be learning second language acquisition or the language acquisition. Chomsky said that native speaking children would become fluent by the age of 10. He also argued that if children learn 2 languages from birth, they are more likely to be fluent in both. So second language learning, that means a child learns first language naturally. But if a child stays in European countries and his father might be from Bangla language and his mother might be from Hungarian language, so this child will learn 2 languages. From father, he or she will be learning Bengali language, and from mother side he will be learning Hungarian language. So this language, this child will be learning 2 languages. And I have said the language acquisition is only for the first language. But here, for this child will be learning 2 languages, staying in his or her home from his mother's side and from his father's side. So that is called the second language. Which is the second language for this child? Okay, so second language from father's side, he will be the Bangla will be his first language, and from mother's side, Hungarian will be the first language. Yeah, both of them. Yes. So if child's father is Bangladesh and mother is Hungarian, both will be the first language.
Yes.
Okay. So that's okay, but both terms, the language will be acquired. My point is there. Okay, and Chomsky also said so. That is, first language can be learned from parents and others. In the same way, if a child becomes an inhabitant of a bilingual countries, and from the parent side and the mother side, parent side from father side or from the mother side, they can learn both languages simultaneously. Okay, so that is Chomsky, he said. And also other scholars, they have said that the second language is any language that a person uses other than a first or native language. Okay. If the child grows up and after growing up, what language he or she will be learning? That would be the second language. Okay. And first language is identified as the term. What is that? Is L1, and the second language will be identified as L2. And in a shortest form, we can also say that what is meant by the second language? A language that is learned in addition to the language a person first learned as a young child. So again and again we are getting the information that after the first language the child will be learning, or an adult, he or she will be learning a second language. That would be the second language. Now question comes, what is the importance of this second language acquisition? Second language, the importance of second language, it needs no telling that whenever you will be learning another language apart from your first language, there are many reasons. For your career, for your higher studies, for your business, for your medical treatment, other platforms as well, you can also write. And the most important thing that when you will be learning a second language, there is a linkage between language and culture. In Bangladesh, we say tui, tumi, apni, but in English, for only you. So language is very much related to culture. Apart from all the benefits, that means for your career, for your business, for your personal interest, when you will be learning a second language, you are exposed to a different culture. And that culture you may like or you may not like. But the matter is that integration, that means that culture will be integrated to you whenever you will be learn a second language. That is another importance of learning second language. And also, what is the other characteristics of second language? Okay. Ability to identify and memorize new words. That means who are able to learn second language. So you have to have some basic requirements that you can learn a second language. What are those? That is ability to identify and memorize new words. That means vocabulary. In case of learning second language, you have to know vocabulary, whatever may be the weight. You have to learn the vocabulary. Ability to understand the function of particular words in sentence, that is morphology and syntax and other things. And ability to figure out the grammatical rules. Okay. And memory of new words. That means the vocabulary. Okay. So, successful language learners may not be strong in all of the components of aptitude. Aptitude means ability. Okay. So, these are the basic components that you have to cope if you want to learn a second language. And the successful learners will be who will be efficient in all these criteria. That means vocabulary, structure, meaning, pragmatic syntax, and other things. And Skinner, another linguist, he said that language acquisition could be explained by mechanisms of operant conditioning. Operant conditioning, we will be discussing this later in when we will be discussing Skinner. But before that, operant condition is a technique that can be used to target and increase the behavior by pairing performance of the target behavior with a positive or negative outcome. Okay. So another linguist said that through the operant conditioning we can learn second language. Okay. Then there are some stages of second language acquisition. The first one, that means the pre-production. This is the silent period. Second one, early production. The stage may last up to 6 months, and the students will develop a restricted and active vocabulary of about 1,000 words. And third stage is speech emergence. Fourth stage, intermediate fluency, and advanced fluency. So these are the stages in which way we can learn second language. Why the second language is important? Okay, that we have discussed earlier. That means connecting the people all over the earth. And what is the necessity of connecting people all over the world? The necessity is that you have to be exposed to the other countries, other cultures, and other things. That is the importance of second language learning and acquisition. And what is the principles of second language learning? Okay. So, principles of second language acquisition and bilingualism, that is, the development of language is like a seed that takes time to germinate and produce fruit. That means input and output. If you plant a seed in a good way, the production would be good. If you put a seed in a haphazard way, the production will be haphazard. And the seed planting seed in case of language is called input, and language production is called output. So, in which way? Some days ago, someone was speaking. That means you are getting certificates, you are getting degrees, but you can't produce language in a quite good way. That means the way you have learned, that learning might not be good, or you haven't tried yourself. Okay. So after planting a seed, you have to take care the seedlings. And for this reason, if you don't take care, suppose you are getting input in the classroom, fine input, but if you don't take care or if you don't practice yourself, then the result will not be good. So second language acquisition is dependent on input and output. Input might be good, but if the output might not be good, that would not be second language acquisition will not be good or successful. What is the necessity of learning a second language? That is, you see here, first thing is that motivation. Dr. Mohammed Shahidullah, how many languages you would know? 14 languages Dr. Mohammed Shahidullah would know. So at that time there was no technology. At that time there was no Google. At that time there was no YouTube. But he learned. Okay. And nowadays, how many languages you want to learn? Just maybe okay. Bangladeshi কতগুলো ভাষা আছে? মারমা ভাষা আছে, চাকমা ভাষা আছে, সিলেটের ভাষা আছে। ওকে মারলাম। জানেন? So, আপনি কি মনে করেন সংস্কৃত বাংলা থেকে সহজ? আপনি কি মনে করেন চাকমা ভাষা আপনার বাংলা ভাষা থেকে সহজ? প্রত্যেক ভাষার একটা ক্যারেক্টারিস্টিক্স আছে। I want to put emphasis on the way that if you are interested nowadays, lots of ways you can learn language. Okay, from YouTube, Google, lectures and everything. But what is needed, first one, that is the motivation. You have to be motivated. Motivation might be intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation, that means internally you think that, yeah, I will learn a language. I feel happy to read the literature of other language. That is my intrinsic motivation. And extrinsic motivation, that means you want to learn a language for the benefit of your job, for the benefit of your career and other things. That is motivation, extrinsic motivation. Other from that attitude. Actually, if you, once upon a time, many person who don't learn other language because that language does not match with our culture. That is called cultural shock. Okay. If you visit a European country, if you tell your teacher, sir, how are you? First thing he say, oh, don't call me sir. Call me in my name. Robert, how are you? Okay. That means they will be calling their first name. So this is their culture. But in Bangladesh, if you say salam, how are you? That means it is not our culture. So this way you might got shocked. And when I have been living in London, I wouldn't say my professor Robert Julio Jimenez, his name. I would say, I can tell you, Your Highness, in front. He said, no, Highness is also attributed to the kings and queens. So you can't tell me that. Then I would say, respected Dr. Julio Jimenez. Okay. That means I couldn't overcome my culture. Okay, and that is called cultural shock. That is called cultural shock. Okay. And in which way? If you do not like the culture of the target language country, your language learning will not be good. So if you integrate, that means if you accept the culture of the target language country, your language learning will be successful. And for this reason, the second term, attitude, is important for learning second language. The third one is age. Shah Rukh Khan became successful when he was 42 years old. Okay. So age is a major. But you can run. Actually, the football player get retired in which age? Most probably 32, 34. 30. Why? Because their ability doesn't permit to do that. So age is a. But before that, if you are highly motivated, then age will not be the obstacle of learning second language. Okay, so in case of your age, in case of your age, so if you are highly motivated, that age doesn't matter. Okay, if you are a aged person, it will take might be 15 times or 15 days to learn a thing. And if anybody is of 25 years, it might take 2 days. It doesn't matter. But it depends on your attitude and motivation. If you are highly motivated, age doesn't matter. Okay. So age is the important factor of learning second language, and also intelligence. Intelligence means your intellectual ability, how you can receive a language. Okay, mine. Don't. Intelligence, actually, same thing. A person can accept in a way, another person can accept in a different way. It depends on your intellectual ability. Some's brain might get slow. That means he or she can learn a thing slower. But other, they may catch a thing quite quickly. That is about the intelligence. But many persons don't believe in intelligence. That means they think that yes, if I try, of course I can do that. And also aptitude. Same like intelligence. That means whether you have, if you want to learn Chinese language, okay, that means you have to remember 7,000 letters. They have not letters. They have always symbols. They have to write. And cognitive style. Cognitive style, that means how you will understand a thing. Cognitive, that means the understanding. And the personality. Okay, personality is quite similar to attitude. How you will be accepting the other's culture and other language. Okay. One day I asked a person, that means foreign person, that yeah, how may I get to over there in Sainsbury? Then he said, oh, I dropped your words. Amra ki boltam? I didn't hear you. Would you please repeat? But he said that I dropped your words. He didn't say that I didn't hear you. Okay, so these are the way you will be getting integration to the second language acquisition. But these are the factors might get you in an obstacle situation in case of learning second language. Okay, and what are the basic factors? As we have told it earlier, that means the vocabulary, grammar, and also interference of mother language. Okay. Self-efficacy and motivation. These are the basic factors of learning a second language. Who coined this term, second language acquisition? In this regards, another person's name comes forward, that is Stephen Krashen. Stephen Krashen, most probably he pinpointed the point. That means, as I have said, that this first language can be acquired naturally, and second language can be learned consciously. But Stephen Krashen, he said that if we apply the first language learning method in case of second language learning, then second language learning will be quite similar to second language acquisition. Okay. So in case of Bangladeshi learners, we learn English language in school, colleges, and universities. Still, we can't learn English properly. But does a child visit a school or university or college? But within the 2 years, a child of Chinese language, a child of Bangladeshi language, and a child of French language, it's quite common. That means within the 2 years, a child will be learning his or her mother language, except Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein learned language up to 4 or 6 years. He didn't utter a word. So that is a different thing. So the quiet thing is that language acquisition is quite easy. That means a child doesn't visit a school, doesn't go to high school, colleges, but a child of Chinese language, a child of Germanese language, a child of Bangladeshi language learns language within 2 years. So in which way he learns? He learns language in the way of acquisition. A child acquires language from his parents and neighbors and others. Stephen Krashen said that if we apply second language learning in the way a child learns a first language, that means second language learning will be quite easy. And for this reason, Stephen Krashen is the first person who coined the term, that is second language acquisition. Okay? And benefits of second language, what is the benefit? That means enhanced problem solving skills. You might ask that what is the necessity that if I learn a second language, what would be the benefits of mine? Okay, so here you will see that means problem solving skills, improved verbal and spatial abilities, improved memory function, long and short term, enhanced creative thinking capacity, better memory, more flexible and creative thinking. Okay, so if we learn European Commission of Education, they have issued a thing. That means in all schools, it's mandatory that apart from their first language, they have to learn another language. He or she may pick any language, France, German, Hungarian, or anything else. Okay, but he or she has to learn a language apart from his or her mother language. And why? Because these are the benefits. That means that will improve your problem solving ability. That is, improve your creative ability if we learn a second language. Okay, what is the 2 points of fluency and accuracy? Okay, so you have to be fluent in case of producing the language, and you have to be accurate of second language learning. So these are the ways of learning second language acquisition. And some barriers of second language acquisition, that means psychological. Okay, if you are not motivated, then you can't learn a second language proper way. If you have any other problems like psychophysical, physiological problem, linguistics problem, social adaptation, as I have said, that if you don't like the culture of the target language country, your language learning might not be successful. Okay, because they have not tested. Yeah, and also the competence. Competence, as I have said, that if you have the ability, you have to apply the ability with a motivated situation, and then you can learn second language quite okay. So we have said that is what is the difference between second language and foreign language acquisition. So any foreign language might be the second language. It depends on your necessity. That means the definition is that apart from your first language, what language you are supposed to learn, that would be your second language. So any foreign language, second language. Any international language can be your second language. And in case of learning a second language, the central thing is that is syntax and morphology. So you have to understand, in every language, they will follow a common pattern. So in case of second language acquisition, you have to learn these two basic things. That is, you have to understand syntax as well as you have to understand morphology. That means the structure of the sentence. Okay, and also in other case, another thing, that is competence and performance. Many of you have come across these two terms, isn't it? Competence, that means Chomsky has coined these two terms. Competence means your mental ability. Mental ability is your competence. And mental ability, who says that? With the mental ability, that means motivation, cognition, and receptive style. Everything will be included in your mental ability. So mental ability is called. And whenever you are supposed to produce the language, that means that is called performance. Performance, it may vary. Okay, you may have mental ability, you have ability, but in certain situation your performance might change. What are the situations? If you are in a stress situation, your production might not be good. If you are in a normal situation, your production or your competence performance might be good. But performance means that how you will apply your mental or cognitive ability to produce the sentence. That is called performance. Okay. And acquisition vs learning, we have talked about that. Acquisition is the natural process of learning a language, and learning is the tutored process. That is learning. And to summarize that, here we see that the second language acquisition refers to the subconscious or conscious process. Why subconscious? Because we are calling it acquisition. So subconsciously, that we have given an example of an infant. That means it can happen subconsciously, you can learn a second language. And also in the conscious way, that means the tutored way. That means you are learning second language in the classrooms, in the other settings, in the coaching centers or some other places, you can learn a second language. So second language can be learned in two ways, subconscious way or conscious ways. Okay, and it covers the development of phonology. Phonology, you know, that means phonology studies the sound of a language. Okay, that means in many person, my name is not Salam, but many person call me Salam because I write with Dantasha. Dantasha that would be Salam. So that pronunciation will be short. So phonology is not only related to a specific language. Phonology is attributed to all languages. And phonology, if you utter a sentence or words of a target language quite clearly towards the perfect sound of the language, that is called phonology. Lexis, that means the meanings, grammar, pragmatics knowledge, and other things, and has been largely confined in morphosyntax. And the process manifests both verbal and invariable features. Okay, so these are the components of learning second language acquisition. Another thing, at the initial stage we have taught that there is a role of first language in case of learning second language. Okay, so this role, that means many persons of our country, they can't produce sentence, such kind, the person who live in Sylhet or Chapadababganj or Chittagong, they are producing Bangla language, but they can't produce all other languages in a quite way. What is the thing? In case of SLA, second language acquisition, first language is a hindrance of learning second language. In which way? That means he said that Sanskrit and Bangla are quite similar languages. If two languages, that means many Hindi words you will find in Bengali words. So Hindi language and Bangla language, there might be a similarity. In that case, you might have some positive effect of second language learning. Your first language is Bangla. When you will going to learn Hindi language, so your first language will be helpful for learning the second language. And your first language is Bangla, but you want to learn Chinese language. In that case, many sound you can produce properly. In that case, Bangla language will be a hindrance to learn Chinese language. That is called negative transfer. So when first language will be helpful for learning the second language, that is called positive transfer, and when first language will be hindrance for learning the second language, that will be called negative transfer. That means in case of learning second language, first language has a role. Okay, and there is another thing, the natural root development. But many researchers said that no, there is no contribution of first language in case of learning second language. It would not be positive or it would not be negative. They say that actually every language follows a root. Avibhavka. Sentence structure. So you have to end I eat rice. Okay. So this way every language follows a specific pattern. That is, and in every language you will have some places where a language learners might make mistakes. So if you can identify the root of a language and if you develop that root of the language, in that case first language will not be a problem of learning second language, and in the other way first language will not be helpful for other language. So what is the root cause? That means every language follows a specific pattern of sentence and structure. So if you study the structure and pattern, your language learning will be good. In that case second language or first language will not be a problem of your language learning journey. Okay, so that is the root, natural root development. And the relation of first language to second language, that relation is called L1, L2 hypothesis. And whether first language will be problematic or helpful, this can be studied by a thorough process of error analysis. Okay, and that error analysis, if you study a learner in several situations, okay, then in that study, after studying the errors, you can understand that what is the problem with the learner. So in case of second language learning, error analysis will also be an important part. So these are the things in this introductory class, that is second language acquisition. So we have talked about language learning and acquisition, we have talked about competence and performance, we have talked about the benefits of learning second language, and we have talked about the role of first language in case of learning second language. Okay, so the relation between first language acquisition and second language acquisition is called L1 and L2 hypothesis. And L1 will not be helpful or would be harmful. That can be studied through the analysis of errors. But if we study the root of a language and if we try to develop the root of a specific language, then language learning will be not problematic, it would be a fun. So thank you in this journey of second language acquisition. Any questions?